The recovery. I'm here with my friend Johnny G from Caldwell County. Johnny, do you want to start out by telling us your recovery date?
My recovery date is 5/13/2016.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And so what does recovery mean to you?
Recovery means to me the first and foremost, it means to me that I can live today. That I don't have to go down that road that I went down to nothing but imminent death.
Awesome. Awesome, man. That's great. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what your life was like before you got into recovery?
Um, well, my life before I got in recovery was just chaotic. I was in active addiction for 27 years. I started age 13, started experimenting with marijuana, me and a buddy of mine. And after that, it escalated to some drinking on weekends and experimenting with other drugs. And then as we got older, um, and while we were in school, we would start going to parties and stuff, and getting into drugs heavier. And I should say I'm not going to include my friend all through this, but I started getting into drugs heavier, and I started experimenting with drugs that I'd heard about, and I was just curious to how I was seeing everybody around me that were doing them. They looked like they were feeling really good, um, having a real good time. And I thought, you know what, if I'm going to fit in, then I need to, start doing these drugs. So I started doing them, and I started, fitting in and everything. Everybody was like all cool with me and everything. And so I thought, man, this is the life, I thought to myself, I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. And as I continued doing the drugs and the drinking on the weekends, it started getting to where um, I was having to do it every day just to function, not to feel sick, um, to work. I mean, I couldn't work without doing drugs. When I was 19, um, I was introduced to crack cocaine, and the first time I ever done it, I fell in love with it. I thought, man, there's nothing like this. Nothing could compare to this. But after I did my first hit of crack cocaine, um, all I was doing was just chasing that high from then on. I thought I was, this next one's going to get me that rush that first one got me, and it never did. So it just got to the point to where I was just having to do it to keep from being. So it lured me in, and it grabbed a hold of me for about a year. But I got off of the crack cocaine, but I exchanged, one drug for another. I went into what's called cross addiction. So I started taking pain pills and taking benzos. Um, and I thought, I'm going to be on this the rest of my life because this makes me feel normal. And so I did continue that for years. I mean, like, I don't know, 20 years after that, at least 20 years. And I would go to, doctors, and I would doctor hop and doctor shop and all that junk, and, go and lie to doctors and pretend I was hurting when I wasn't. I played the 1 to 10 Richter scale with them. I didn't want to tell them, hey, it's a high 10 or it's an 11. I wanted them to keep it kind of real with them and say it was like an 8.5, so they wouldn't think I was exaggerating. So yeah, I lied. And I don't know if they seen right through it. They probably did, but in my eyes, they didn't. You know, I had that illusion. I had everybody fooled that nobody knew nothing about anything I said or done, or say or do then. Um, but I've found though that uh, as I got what was it, like 5 years before I went into recovery, um, by then I was already doing meth and pain pills. Um, I was doing them intravenously, and I swore I'd never be on the needle. I swore if I ever started using the needle, then I would quit. But that didn't happen. The first time I used a needle, a so-called buddy of mine at the time, a drug acquaintance, had shot me up with a pain pill, and I instantly fell in love with that, just like I did the crack. And um, but I wasn't a master at using a IV or using a needle. So I had to go through that 5 years of getting people to hit me or shoot me up. And I've tried it a few times when I was in active addiction, and I almost scarred my arms for life. Um, but yeah, after that 5 years of using the needle, I swore after I started using the needle that if I ever used heroin with a needle, that I would quit drugs. But then here comes the heroin, and a so-called using buddy of mine shot me up with that. And I knew then that I was in danger, because everything that I swore that I wouldn't do up to that point, I had already done. And I began thinking, you know, what's next? If I'm going to compromise um, my beliefs and what I will not use, if I'm going to compromise that and start using those things, then what's next? You know, I've tried every drug I think known to mankind at that time, and my list of nevers kept getting shorter and shorter. So at age 40, I was sitting I was staying with a drug dealer, and I'd been shooting up really bad um, for a long time, like 43 days. I think I was shooting up with meth and then heroin on and off, um, pain pills, about anything I could put in my arm, I was shooting it up. And one day I was just sitting at the drug dealer's house, and I was thinking to myself, you know, where am I going in life? And my answer was obviously nowhere. You know, I was on my way to death, and I could see that. And the night before, the day I decided to get clean, um, a guy that I had run with and done drugs with, he had stolen a phone from another drug dealer the night before, and I didn't have no phone, so he left it there at the house I was at. So I was sitting there, you know, looking on that phone and stuff, and that thought hit me again. You know, what am I doing with my life? And that's nothing. Um, so what can I do? You know, how can I get help? And I felt, you know, that hopelessness and that impending doom, the despair, all that negative, all those negative feelings that come with drinking and drugging. And so I decided to call my mom. So I called her, and she was trying to figure out an escape for me, you know, to get away from the drug dealers, to go somewhere and get clean for a while, because I'd already been up at that time for like 40 days, something like that. Yeah. I mean, with like a little sleep, you know, just like little naps here and there. Yeah, I was all scatterbrained. But my mom, she decided to call a family friend of ours and see if they could come pick me up, because they was in the town I was in. You know, they could have easily came pick me up, but she couldn't get a hold of them. And I told her, I said, well, I don't know what to do if you can't get a hold of them. And then at that moment, I had I guess I don't know if you would call it a spiritual awakening or um, moment of clarity or whatever, but it hit me, you know, to call mobile crisis. And I don't know why, but I'm glad I did think of that. So I told my mom, I said, you know what, I'm going to call mobile crisis. I heard they'll help people like me, and I'll at least get away from this drug dealer's house and, you know, maybe live. And so I hung up with her, and I called mobile crisis, and the guy that answered, he said that he would come pick me up right then, and they were about, I don't know, an hour and 15 minutes away. This was in Andrews, North Carolina, and they were in Waynesville, North Carolina. And so I told the guy, you know, I said, you need to hurry. I said, because I've got a rig loaded right now, and I've got 4 Xanax in my pocket, and I'm fixing to do both of them. And he said, well, don't do nothing till I get there. I said, well, I ain't guaranteeing that, you know. And at that time, that rig I was using, it was about to break off, and I was still, you know, just using it. And a couple months before that, there was a girl that used a rig that did break off in her arm, and she didn't go to the emergency room to get it treated, and it traveled to her heart and killed her. Yeah, yeah. But see, there's that insanity of it, that I knew that happened to her, but yet I was still using one. You know, like it's never going to happen to me. You know, I'm unique. I'm different. Yeah. Yeah. I was just blessed that I didn't die. Um, but as I was out there on that porch of the drug dealer's house using the phone, um, I heard God's voice, like not audibly, but just like in my spirit, say, I set before you life and death. Choose life. And then at that time, when I heard that in my spirit, I seen myself laying in a ditch, dying or dead. I don't know either one, but I was on my way to being in a ditch somewhere, laying dead. And that scared the hell out of me, and I'm glad it did. That was just right before I called, or right before that thought to call mobile crisis came to my mind. And well, the guy from mobile crisis got there. You know, I left the phone, of course. I ain't taking a stolen phone with me. So I walked down the road, you know, because I didn't want the drug dealer or anybody that's coming around to see me, you know, getting in with somebody. They, you know how that goes. Like, oh, they're gonna think that I'm a narc or a rat or whatever. Which today I don't give a shit, but then I did. But yeah, he came pick me up, and before he got there, I went ahead and done that shot, and I took, I think I had 3 or 4 blue Xanax, I think it was, but and I took them too. So I was like riding that roller coaster. Well, when I got in with that guy, he took me somewhere. I can't remember if it was one of their offices here or there in Murphy, or it's kind of foggy remembered it being messed up, but I'm doing good to remember this much. But he took me to, I remember he took me to the emergency room in Murphy, because he took me somewhere before that and took my blood pressure. My blood pressure was, what was it? 144 over 151 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, he said, I'm going to make an executive decision and take you to the emergency room. So he did. And I stayed in the ER, well, back in one of the little rooms in the back for about a day, maybe a day and a half. and he came back and picked me up. But while I was in the emergency room, I remember just being shitty to the nurses, the doctors. I would cuss them because they wouldn't give me anything. I was already feeling sick and just felt like I was been beat out of hell with a buzzard gut, what it felt like. I mean, um, but the guy came back, picked me up that next day, and took me to Waynesville to the adult recovery unit. And I stayed there for 12 days, willfully, locked down. I think I got out 3 times, maybe to walk around the building a few times. But that time when I was staying in the detox, I can remember many times I wanted just to leave. I didn't want to do it no more because I was on medications, but my mind was still in that fresh sickness of wanting that drug back into my body. But I developed some relationships with the ladies there that were nurses or technicians, and they really helped me. They would talk me down from anxiety and panic attacks and all that stuff. So I'm really grateful and really appreciative that they were there for me, and they walked me and talked me through things that otherwise would have had me going AMA, you know. But after detox at the adult recovery unit, they suggested that I go to a place called ADACT. I'd never heard of it before. I've heard of Black Mountain, but I never heard it called ADACT. And I told them I would, but I was scared to death because the fear of the unknown had me crippled. And my anxiety was up, and I just was dreading it, was afraid. My mind was just picturing me like in a prison camp, all kind of crazy shit. But I went ahead and done it anyway because I knew that was fresh in my mind even today of what my higher power told me that day before I went in to get help. And so I went ahead and I said, well, you know what, I'll go the extra mile. I'll go to ADACT and do their 28-day program. And so I went to ADACT, and I got there. It was pretty cool, man. They had real good food. I mean, they had like 3 meals a day, anything you wanted to eat, as much as you wanted to eat. So I did gain about 30 pounds, like a pound a day. And they had some really awesome staff there, the techs and the teachers, the speakers that would do the, I forget what you call it, anyway, but they done really well with their program. And that's where I began to learn how to do daily structure, how to put daily structure in my life, do something in repetition. And as I kept doing that, I started feeling better, but I couldn't remember, like when I would go to one of the classes and they would teach us something, I just couldn't comprehend it, and I couldn't retain it. I didn't think I was retaining it, but I was. After 14 days, it was a 14-day program, but after 14 days, I put in for an extension for another week. So at that third week, I was kind of remembering things that were said in the rooms, like the groups and the activities and things, but I wasn't quite there. So I knew I had to put in for another week. So I put in for a 4th week, and they approved it. And I remember going back to those groups and hearing things again, but remembering that I'd heard them before. So I knew my brain was cleared up enough to where I was pretty much ready to leave there after that week was up. And then I talked to the, I guess the director her name's Janine. I talked to the director at ADAC, and we were going over some places that I could go after ADAC. And one of the places was 90 miles south of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I thought, you know what? No, I'm not going to Louisiana. I said, I'm pale skinned. First off, I'll burn easy. I won't fit in with the humidity, which I'm glad I didn't go to Louisiana. And she had mentioned another place called the Caldwell House in Lenoir, North Carolina, and I'd never heard of either one of them, Lenoir or Caldwell House. So I said, you know what? I want to stay in North Carolina, so I'll do the Caldwell House. So she got it ready and everything for me to move on to the Caldwell House, which I'm glad I came here, because after I'd been here for like 2 months, I think 3 months, there was a hurricane that hit, and it just destroyed that place down there where I was going to go. So I'm glad I stuck to my roots of North Carolina instead of going down there and getting flooded out. But yeah, I got here to the Caldwell House, which where I'm at right now, and I was really nervous when I got here because I wasn't used to being around people. I was used to isolating, staying in my own apartment, in my own room, doors locked, just have my drugs, my alcohol, my TV, and I was used to all that shit. But now, when I got here, of course it was a lot different. I wasn't used to, being around people, being, having to interact with people, especially being clean. That was just weird because my mind was still foggy. I was still like, I'd never not been introduced to the steps or nothing like that in the program, to get to know who I am. So it was really scary. And I think the first week that I was at the Caldwell House, I started having a panic attack. So I went to the emergency room at Caldwell Hospital. Well, that nurse, she puts an IV in me, and then she shot me up with some Ativan. And of course, I just went completely just relaxed and thinking, you know what, this is awesome. But the next day, after I got back here, I started feeling guilty, like I had relapsed. So Bob Laws, he's the house director, and I went to him and I asked him. I said, Bob, was that considered a relapse? And he said, no, not if a doctor administered your shot. That's not a relapse. So I felt good about that because I thought I'd done threw everything away. I was off to the races again, but I got through that, and then I came back here, and I just gradually started getting adapted to being around a bunch of people without the use of drugs and alcohol. And so here I am today, and I'm here at the Caldwell House, like I said, still, but I'm content. I'm happy. I'm joyous, and I'm able to help other people. I live here at the Caldwell House, but I work at the Flynn home in Morganton, and that's allowed me to be able to help others early in recovery, to meet them on where they're at, and to lead and guide them in the direction that I was led and guided into recovery. And by me working with other addicts and alcoholics, it allows me to always remember where I came from. And it's always humbling to me when I see one of the guys struggling with something or wanting to give up. My I don't know what to call it, instincts, or my from what I went through I just know how to go about talking to them and calming them, calm them down. And that's a joy to me to be able to do that today. If I can just help one person that's an addict or an alcoholic, then I am happy. I think that's about it though. Maybe that was a few minutes.
So let me ask you this, John. You said you were scared when you got to the Caldwell house. Was there a point, I don't know about you, but I know for me, when I first got into transitional housing, I was terrified and I wasn't sure that what these people told me was going to work. Was there a period in time where your commitment to recovery changed as far as being unsure to realizing that this is something that you wanted to pursue?
Yeah, it took me, I was here 9 months before I truly admitted I was alcoholic and addict. In my heart, I could go to a meeting and I could say, hey, I'm Johnny, I'm an addict, or hey, I'm Johnny, I'm an alcoholic, but I didn't mean it in my heart because I didn't believe it. I thought maybe I could go to these rooms of AA and NA and I could figure out an easier way to drink or do drugs without consequences. But as I kept going, I kept hearing my story out of other people, that admitted they were alcoholic and addict. And so it took, like I said, it took me 9 months to actually give in, to actually surrender, and just to begin to start working the program into my life. So yeah.
Awesome. So what does your program look like now as opposed to what it looked like when you started? Has it changed or do you keep it pretty much the same?
Oh, it changes. It changes all the time. Matter of fact, I'll add something new to it every once in a while just to kind of change it up. But right now I've got 4 home groups. I'm chairing 3. Yeah. And I go to 1 meeting on Monday, 2 on Tuesdays, 2 on Wednesdays, 2 on Thursdays, 1 on Friday, 1 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. Yeah.
Dang, man. So you're really, really involved in the program there then.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome, so I'm gonna ask you one more thing and then we're gonna shut it down. If you could give people that are maybe struggling to figure out whether they want to engage in recovery or not, or maybe they are seeking recovery, what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out on this journey?
Well, I'll just say for me, I had to find my bottom, or it's like an elevator. It was going straight down and the doors opened to every floor, but it was up to me whether I got off or not. And one day I decided on May 13, 2016 to step off that elevator, and I wanted to live. That was my primary reason for getting into recovery, was just wanting to live and wanting to get out of that lifestyle of the drug game, the using, the selling, the transporting it, and all that stuff. I wanted out of it. And I'm just thankful it didn't take me nearly dying, which I was a walking dead man, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Shell of a man. My spirit was just as dead as hell. I mean, there wasn't nothing in my spirit that was anything joyful, happy, loving. I hated myself. I hated others because I hated myself. I loathed even living, yeah. But my suggestion is just get into recovery. Just do it. Just get in it and do it. There's no right or wrong way. There's no wrong way out of hell. Just get out of hell, no matter what. If you don't have a higher power, you can use mine, or you can use the rooms as a higher power. I did. I used people in the rooms as my higher power for that 9 months that I was in denial that I was alcoholic and addict. And but just do the thing. It is possible. Doors do open for the good. They did for me, and I know they can for anybody else. And it is possible. It is possible.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for getting on here and talking to me today, man.
Thank you, Chad.
So, with that said, man, I do appreciate you getting on here and talking with me. This is probably one of the best, I say that this is probably one of the best ones we've had so far, man. I don't think I've ever got to hear your story, and I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Chad.
Gave me chills, bro.
Yeah, I was getting them too.
I appreciate you, man. I'm going to edit this and pop it up on the YouTubes. I'll be talking to you soon.
All right, brother.
You have a good one, man.
See you, brother.